Good morning, Troublemakers.
Good morning. Yeah.
I was going through my checklist of things to do for the new year. The usual things, really. Build a fence around the garden, pay off a credit card, dress up like Eleanor Roosevelt and sing show tunes. The usual. When I came across this, introduce the CCTA drivers and maintenance group, which to my horror has become known as the Sunday Breakfast Club. Very quickly, I hope you're all aware that when I die, they're going to put SBC on my tombstone, and the sound you'll hear will be me spinning in my grave every time someone says, "What does SBC mean?" It's not a club, and it is for everyone at work. It's not exclusive, and it's not elite. If any group or organization is exclusive or elite, I'm not in it. They won't have me. At any rate, the next thing I came across was to introduce Sandy Pope to the 2011 Labor Notes Troublemaker School in sunny South Burlington. So wanting to hurry the process and streamline things and have some fun, because I'm all about a good time, I decided to present to you today today's top 10 list. So could my friends, the SBC Club, and Nancy Welch honorary member, Nate Bergeron, Chuck, I'll come forward.
Uh-oh. Did you know about
It's going to take a minute.
He likes to spring things.
You didn't know you had to come forward? You can't really project so well when you're seated. You have to come from the diaphragm. Okay. This is Nate Bergeron, Scott Ranney, Nancy Welch, and Chuck Norris Brown. Okay, the top 10 list. Top 10 things Sandy Pope has done that James Hoffa has not. And so my brothers and sisters from CCTA and Nancy Welch will present this list. So here is today's top 10 list, all the way from the research crew in Buellsgore, Vermont. Number 10.
Driven a truck, a real truck, a big truck with a clutch. You know, a tractor trailer.
Number 9.
Actually, organized labor.
Number 8.
Served in the Ron Carey administration as an international rep assigned to the warehouse division.
Remember, the top 10 things Nancy Pope has done that James Hoffa, Sandy Pope, Sandy Pope, I know who she is, has not. Thank you, Chuck. Where are we at? We're number 7.
Actually, bargained contracts. Good contracts. Really, really good contracts in a bad economy.
And number 6, been a troublemaker. Number 5.
Been elected president of a local.
Number 4.
Worked on a dock. Not walked on a dock, worked on a dock.
Number 3.
Sandy worked as the executive director of the Coalition of Labor Union Women, training and involving new leaders in the labor movement, especially women and minorities.
Number 2.
Walked the picket line more than once.
And the number 1 thing that Sandy Pope has done that James Hoffa has not. Given birth. Seriously, she has done something that requires dealing with pain, sacrifices, and a long-term commitment to someone else's well-being. And that's not bad. Thank you. Now, one important thing before we all welcome Sandy Pope. This is important to me because I think when people put their asses on the line, they deserve a little credit. I just want Travenlation, Traven, I just want you to know how much I appreciate the help and counsel you have given me and the invaluable work you have done for labor in Vermont. Without your help, I would never have gathered a single petition signature for Sandy. And on behalf of those others who have been inspired by your commitment and courage, thank you very much. So now, Sandy Pope has bargained strong contracts and argued grievances, walked a picket line. Sandy teaches labor classes at Cornell. Sandy has been a committed labor activist for most of her life. She is committed to the rank and file because she comes from the rank and file. Sandy Pope is committed to the rights of working people everywhere. Even now, she's leading a valiant fight to organize worker at Fresh Direct, a large online grocer. She is Teamster smart, she is Teamster tough, and she is a proven leader. Troublemakers, let me introduce you to the next General President of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, Sandy Pope.
That was a great introduction. Thank you, everyone. I like to tell people, as I promote democracy and the involvement of members, that sometimes it's messy and sometimes it doesn't always come out how you want, but it's always better. And so I like that group introduction. There was a couple of messy things in there, but my kids would appreciate being at the top of the top 10 list. And I guess they do deserve to be there. One thing you don't know, that even Jim doesn't know, is that my handle when we used to have CB radios was Troublemaker. And there's a few hundred people in Cleveland, Ohio, who can attest to that fact. And which is where I started as a Teamster in Cleveland. So I'm really happy to be here. I did finally get here. It was quite a trip, and a couple of people said, weren't you going to fly a plane in a plane up here? And I drove from New York, and I just want you to know the other piece about me that you didn't know is that I grew up in Boston. So someone who grows up in Boston, just like in Vermont, if it's only a 5.5-hour drive, of course I'm going to drive. Why would I spend the money on a plane ticket, right? So here I am finally, and I wish I could have gone skiing, but I guess Steve Early had to do that. So I'm really excited. I've been doing. Huh? Did you do it? It was a sacrifice. Sorry, Steve. I see you made it here, though. Anyway, I've been involved with Labor Notes from the beginning. I think this is a really important organization and function in the labor movement, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit, how important education is in the whole resurgence of this labor movement, and that if that's what we're looking for, and I think that's why you're here, and or turnaround. Right now we're on our asses. We're getting pulled apart. We're getting the shit beaten out of us, truthfully, all over the country, and not just, I know a lot of you are public employees, certainly in the private sector as well. My local has been suffering. Companies that struggled along through bad times are now finally going under. I'm losing members in our local, and the whole labor movement is really suffering all over the place. And I wanted to tell a story about why I still feel a lot of hope, and that was this. We have a big local in New Jersey that when I was working for the International, I taught them about how to do leafleting and protesting. They were old school local. If you don't, you either go on strike or not, and they didn't know anything else. They were. They represent grocery workers and warehouse workers, and a Dutch company was buying a big warehouse operation, and so we organized. They couldn't go on strike; it was just getting bought, but they were changing the contract. Different things were happening, and we wanted to protest. So we organized a rally at the Dutch embassy in New York City, and brought a petition and all this stuff, and arranged to meet with the ambassador to the U.S. and brought hundreds of New Jersey truck drivers and warehouse workers into New York City to stand outside the Dutch embassy someplace in Rockefeller Center. And they had never done anything remotely like this, and they didn't believe it was going to do anything. And it turned out to be this awesome event. The Dutch embassy did end up putting pressure on Royal Dutch Ahold, which is a huge multinational food corporation and global food distributor. And they won a lot of improvements in their contract and turned things around. And that was their first taste of what it was like to use the members to put pressure on companies in other ways besides just putting their jobs on the line by going on strike. And from then on, they got the taste of it, and we started doing things like leafleting customers at the supermarkets and things like that. And so they developed a culture in this local of going out there and mobilizing, getting their members out and doing things. And they would have safety meetings when something was going wrong with management. Suddenly there was the business agent would show up, and they'd have a big meeting in the break room of hundreds of warehouse workers would just come off the floor because something supposedly happened down on the other side. And so I've been watching this over the years, and they continue to do this sort of thing, and just completely against the grain of the rest of the Teamsters, where the union has been going. And we knew that they were telling this long story because it's such an illustration of what's going on. This big distributor that they represent in New Jersey has announced that they're going to pull out of New Jersey. They've built a big, huge automated warehouse in Pennsylvania, which, by the way, the state of Pennsylvania gave them incentives to do so, of course, paid them lots of money to do this. And they have another distribution center that they're opening up in Newburgh, New York, just about 50 miles away from New York City. And same thing, not automated, but also with our tax dollars opening up this warehouse, and they're going to shut down the warehouses in New Jersey. 1,500 workers are going to be put out of jobs, and they're going to move the work out of the state to non-union facilities after it took us years to get them organized, and Tom Leadham and I helped them do that. And but they've been out going to the stores, the members have been going out, and finally A&P declared bankruptcy, and this is A&P food stores, and they and we had been out there leafleting. Hoffa sent letters, called up locals saying, "Don't do this. You shouldn't be out there." The UFCW took an ad out in the newspaper attacking the workers for going out and leafleting in front of the stores, saying, "We have no dispute with A&P. Ignore it. You should go shop there. Everything is fine." And the International tried to shut us down through Change to Win, and said that we shouldn't be out there. And we had organized other locals to help, from Boston down to DC. So to their credit, the other locals said, "No, we're still going to do this. We have to help this local save their jobs." And so we've been out there, and we're getting ready to make forays into non-union territory. We're going to go leaflet some of the non-union stores in Pennsylvania and take people out for the weekend. And the good news is, so we thought that this was a fight that couldn't be won, but A&P has declared bankruptcy, and we were able to get, and this local and other people's effort was able to get the judge to allow A&P to put bids out, new bids out, to union distributors, as well as a couple of other non-union ones. So we're now keeping up the pressure campaign in hopes that we can get a different distributor to take over the business, and we're now going to go and smear C&S Wholesalers, which is from Vermont, right? That's where they escaped when they were put on strike by the Teamsters years ago in Massachusetts, by the way. So Rick Cohen and his gang, we're going to really put a smackdown on them and this guy, and shine the spotlight on Rick Cohen and how evil he is, and his family and what they're doing. It's a privately held family company. It's billions and billions of dollar operation, and they are absolutely evil. But to this union just has not stopped, and instead we've gathered strength and gone out and built up support. So now other locals are seeing that this sort of activity can actually work. Because everybody thinks that once you get the WARN Act notice, once you get a notice that you're going to shut down, all we should do is go bargain severance. And that's what they were told to do in writing. Go there and bargain severance for your people. The company kept sending letters to the members saying, "We've been offering your union a severance package, and they're remiss in not agreeing to something for you." So the company is trying to bargain directly with the members. And the union keeps rallying the people around and putting them in buses and taking them out to go places, and I'm telling you, there isn't a more loyal group of members. that are out, and they got petitions for me. They're still, in the face of losing their jobs after 10, 20, 30 years, they're still out there active. And that's the sort of thing we need to see all over this labor movement. We have to fight no matter what the risk is at this point. We are losing so much. We have lost our dignity. We have lost everything in giving up. We can't do it. And I, as a local officer, I get nervous that I'm going to put a company out of business if we fight too hard. And we represent lots of warehouses in my local and the family-owned businesses. And I have been really worried walking the line. And I don't know how hard to push the members, because companies will just shut down and move to Pennsylvania. They scream at me in negotiations saying, you do this and we're all ready. Pennsylvania offered us $2,000 per worker to come here and no taxes for 10 years. And they saw the representatives. It was all true. I have 300 people depending on these jobs and their pensions in New York City. What am I supposed to do in this phase when the rest of the union is not backing me up? When people, the union in Pennsylvania, the Teamsters in Pennsylvania, looks the other way when we contact them and say, can we do something about your local officials that are going around and offering these economic incentives? What about our politicians we keep throwing money at? What are they doing? Oh, well, we can't, yeah, but this money is only for when new companies come in with new jobs. What? You don't want to save the jobs that you have? You don't want the people who are have pensions and who are paying for mortgages and paying real estate taxes here, and the carbon, not to mention the carbon footprint we're talking about, that you all, all these city governments, oh, we're doing all these environmental things and stuff. Meanwhile, yeah, let's move the warehouses out to Pennsylvania and drive everything in 500 miles instead of employing workers right here in New York City who take a subway to work. And the trucks are these little bitty trucks that just go in a little radius of 25 miles. So the hypocrisy and what's going on is it's this big shell game that's happening where they're replacing good jobs with benefits and people who have been in the community for a long time, buying houses, sending their kids to the local colleges. Instead, oh, let's create new jobs. It's bullshit. What new jobs? They're just different jobs with no health benefits and no pensions, and new workers that they bring in from other. I mean, Pennsylvania has to recruit people to come into the state to work in these warehouses that they're building. It's ridiculous. So let me stop complaining. Let me get to the last 5 minutes of this on what we're going to do. No. So the first piece is the mobilizing the members. I'm running for president of the Teamsters Union. And one of the reasons that I decided to do this, and it wasn't by myself or in a vacuum, it's because many of us have been fighting for years to change the union into a union that's going to mobilize and involve the members. And we started that work in the 90s with Ron Carey, and unfortunately that stopped with Ron Carey being thrown out of the union and Hoffa coming in. And but the 1997 UPS strike was clearly one of the high points of the labor movement in many, many years. And from then on, I don't think we've seen anything other than some very important fights like the UE occupation in Chicago and things like that. But something at the scale of the UPS strike of '97 we haven't seen since then. And that's because Ron Carey was not afraid to mobilize the members. He saw the members as a strength, as an asset, as the power of the union, and so did we that supported him and got involved with him, and that's what I intend to do when I win the presidency of the union. Is the first thing is to say to the membership, I want you, we need you, and we are going to be the strongest union in the country and be able to lead the others, because we're going to involve and educate every single one of you that wants to. The people who don't want to get involved, the officers that can't deal with it, we're going to leave them behind. Fine, I'm not going to get into a fight with people. You just go ahead and go sit in your living room on your ass and drink your beer. The rest of us are going to get out there in the streets. And there is real fear. The stories that I hear about from members about officers that say, elected stewards? No, we can't. We don't have that. We can't do things like that. Educate the stewards? Oh, no, well, maybe next year that would be a good idea, but not right now. We don't really need that. Education is going to be key. I'm going to make sure, as a labor educator myself and someone I go to all the labor notes programs and get involved. This is where we can really do a lot. We have employers that are using surveillance, that are using a culture of harassment to get their way, to increase production, and to have a hammer over your head all the time. And so that educating people, the members and the stewards and the officers, the business agents, the union reps, everybody, all from top down, on how we're going to fight back. And there's lots of ways that we can do it. We haven't lost all our constitutional rights yet. We still have freedom of speech. We still have bargaining rights, and hopefully we can push back against the forces of evil on maintaining those rights. But I want to have education throughout the membership. I want to put things on the web, have webinars, have free and open access to all this information. It's so easy to do. We've got the internet. We don't have to spend a dime to get so much more information out to the members and to organize programs like this. Just think if all the unions just decided to have once a month, a Sunday, that they were going to have educational programs. It would be easy to do. The number of people who could teach the classes and organize the classes are all there. So that's the first thing that we have to do. The second thing we have to do is stop throwing money at politicians. Absolutely. I know many of you are public employees. It is a real dilemma when you're in a public workers union, because obviously you depend on the goodwill of the people who are deciding your budgets and all that. But the fact is that they're this far away from being management themselves. And my motto with management is that you do not ever expect them to remember anything nice you did to them, for them. Don't expect it. It will never happen. They will never remember. From yesterday, you helped them raise money. Today, they've forgotten. Yesterday, you gave management a break. I won't file a grievance on this if you promise not to do it again. The next day, forget it. What? Me? You said that? I said that? No. And in bargaining, we didn't need all that money for the health plan, so we let you get away with only a 2% increase in the health plan contribution. Next contract, you say, you know what, last time we gave, we let you skate on those health, now this time we need 10%. 10%? You're going to have to start paying out of your paycheck now. Forget that, so that's the pattern, and it's always like that. So we have to stop. It's just, we're going to have to, it's a cold turkey thing. And we're going to have to do it, and the reason is we've got to educate our members on the issues. And I want to compliment the CWA that years ago realized that it was much more important and made a lot more sense to teach our own members how to make decisions, or give them the facts about where our public dollars go. What are fair taxes? What are unfair taxes? Real estate taxes versus income taxes, things like that. Where does Social Security come from? Medicare, all these different things that we rely on. Where does it come from? How does it get paid for? What about your economic interest? Is it more important to think about your economic interest than whether or not there is, whatever the social issue of the day is that people get pissed off about? And we need to do a lot more of that. Dollar for dollar, I think we're going to get a lot more impact by teaching our own members about these sorts of issues. What are unions about? Why is it important to safeguard those rights? Because the fact is, the politicians have screwed us on just about everything that we have tried to, that we got them elected for, and certainly in this last congressional and presidential campaign, boy, did we blew the follow-up. I don't disagree that we should have. I supported Obama. I got out and campaigned for him and everything else. But then we went home and waited for everybody to now, okay, we got you elected, now let's go. Get us EFCA, get us pension reform, get us all these different things. And I would get up at these big meetings at the Teamsters, raise my hand, yes, Sandy, you know, because they don't even have mics at Teamster meetings. You know, these big national meetings for our officers, they don't set up mics. We're not supposed to ask questions or make comments from the floor. Hundreds of officers, principal officers of unions. So I get up there, raise my hand, yes, Sandy, and I said, I've been talking to a lot of people, and we agree that we should go down to Washington and have a big rally to support pension reform, you know, to help safeguard our pensions because it's so important and everything. And so the head of the lobbying program said, well, it's really not the right time to do that. And I said, it's 6 months into the administration at least, or maybe it was even, yeah, it was at least 6 months. And it was clear that the retirement, the whole thing with pensions was, you know, getting shoved aside. So she said, well, we don't want them to think that we're criticizing Obama. I said, we have signs that say, we love you, Obama, we want you to do the right thing. Whatever it is you gotta see. Come on, you know, we can make good signs. We don't have to. We can get down there and so we even had been hearing presentations from people who were giving historic presentations about great presidents in the past who encouraged the people to get out there and put pressure on them. Duh. I mean, if you know, let's just watch the politicians slide to the right as we do nothing. And that's what's happening. So, so we got to get people in the streets. We've got to stop this throwing money at these guys, and we have to make them come to us. I even want to move the international out of Washington and move it to Chicago or something, and as a symbol that you should come to us. You know, a lot of Teamsters think it's cool that we can see the Capitol building from the headquarters of the International Union. And it is kind of cool, but that was from the old Hoffa days when him and Robert Kennedy were fighting. But I kind of like the idea of making them come visit us in Chicago or Detroit or something, right? So we have to get out there without apology, defend our basic, you know, Social Security, Medicare, pensions. I mean, and for public employees, I have to say, I mean, we better do some quick education to our private sector members about how important it is to defend the benefits and certainly the pensions of public employees right now, and everything that's under on the chopping block in these budget fights that are going on. People really do not understand. They don't get it, and it's pretty unbelievable that they don't get it, that if they let the public employees lose their benefits and rights, that they're next. And in fact, we are already losing. So it's almost like, you know, well, I'm getting screwed, so let them get screwed too. At least maybe my taxes won't go up so high. I mean, that's pretty sick, if that's what's going on. So we have a lot of work to do to help make people, the voters, aware, our own constituents aware of these situations. We've got to promote democratic unionism among all unions. And part of getting the members involved is it's not going to happen unless the members feel that they own, that their organizations are worth getting involved in. And if you are so detached from the leadership and of the union and have no chance of getting anything done or any say or anything like that, why do you even give a shit? Why would you get involved? I wouldn't. I'd go to my PTA or get involved in my kids' school things. Why would I get involved in my union? So promoting democratic unionism in all the different unions is going to help get members involved much more and help them take ownership and leadership of the union, so that we're actually fighting for what people want instead of what the people at the top of the unions think. And they, you know, it's the same beltway mentality that just gets recreated in unions. When you're detached from the rank and file, you just forget. And a lot of them have never been a part of the rank and file. They're college-educated people that got hired, and then they get put in these positions in a lot of unions. And that's wrong. I mean, that's one of the things that I really appreciate about the Teamsters, is that we're bottom up, and you know, most of our leadership anyway does come out of the ranks. So I'm finally going to. So those are the main things that I want to see happen, and I'm really excited about this campaign in the Teamsters Union. I really do think we have a chance of winning and taking back this union, and having the Teamsters Union be a lead for the other unions to reach out in solidarity with the other unions, to rebuild alliances, to get rid of this stupid change the wind shit and get everybody back together, and into a new national coalition of unions, and to reach out and to bring other organizations, other worker organizations into that structure, into that. I mean, we're missing so much when we are not aligned with immigrant workers organizations, with the organizations of farm workers, and all the different, and the student organizations. I mean, it's insane that we aren't doing it for real. It's all paper. It's all bullshit the way we're doing it right now. We have to do it for real. We have to do it at the local level and have these sorts of meetings everywhere in the country. And it's so, it could be so vibrant and so exciting, and start bringing artists and musicians and everybody into this, and we can really turn things around. I'm very excited, and really truthfully, that top 10 list thing, that #1 thing, my 2 kids, that's a lot of why I'm doing this. And you young people in here, you should be kicking our asses a hell of a lot more than you are. And I tell this to my kids all the time. How dare you let me get away with polluting your air and chopping off the tops of your mountains and all those things that you're letting us get away with? What is going on with you people? You know, stop. You know, give us a little bit more shit. I did that to my parents. Come on, what's missing here? So I'm really excited about the future of the labor movement. If we can only get a lot more of these sorts of things going, and thanks again to Labor Notes for being the inspiration of this. I talked that long, huh?
Please, you want to identify yourself?
John Howe, Vermont State Employee Association. Really good that you talk about this politicians. We elected a Democrat governor in Vermont. And the first thing he does is he hires the treasurer, who's been after our retirement benefits forever, has his chief of staff, is that our Secretary of Administration, and they're asking for us to contribute more to retirement, and really kind of a hostile reaction. So when we have some uphill struggles with the state employees, the public sector, to get to rally to say, because we just took a 3% cut, now they're coming after us again. So someone who is very friendly to us, but really, fundamentally, he's about eroding some of our protections.
I'm particularly into pension and welfare funds. I actually used to administer our funds as well in my local, and so I've learned a lot about them, and this is what I want to tell all of you. Make sure that you have some people in your group that learn everything they can about the pension funds and where your funds are invested and how they're invested and about the rules on this. There is this big fat layer of bloodsuckers that are involved in your pension investments. I'm serious. In every investment that goes on with your tax dollars, but in particular with the pensions, there are lawyers and consultants and investment managers and all these different people. And it's huge, the amount of money that they are taking and using and spending of your pension money. And it happens everywhere, and the more I learn about it, the more it makes me sick. There are good people out there. You've got to have professionals that manage your stuff. But they are a self-perpetuating group. They all scratch each other's back, and they're all feeding off of our pension money. It's just this big glob of money to them that they think, ooh, you know, I can get interest. I can get payment for, we have to do these documents over again, and this law says this. So a lot of your money is being wasted on paying for all these bums that are just, seriously, you see me I get really pissed off at this because they're making you take cuts, making all of us take cuts, when in fact they could do a lot of this work much cheaper than they are. They could hire staff, they outsource a lot of this work. You've got to see what these state governments and city governments are doing. They hire private firms to do work for the public with the public money. So it adds another 20% or more to the cost of doing this work. It is bullshit. You guys all know that outsourcing costs more. In the end, it costs more than hiring direct employees, right? The same thing with your pension funds. And they've got everybody else and all these banks and investment managers and law firms that are feeding off of them. So start defending yourself by getting this information, find out where they're spending the money, and go after them, and go after them big, because I guarantee you they're related to people in state government and city government. I guarantee it. And you can write me an email and tell me, oh yeah, I just found out that so-and-so's brother-in-law heads up the investment firm that's handling about $20 million of our pension money. You'll see. Next. Go ahead, push another button.
Sandy, a lot of us are working to make Vermont the state that leads the country in providing health care for everybody. And we're doing it by not trusting any politicians to do the right thing. We're watching them every step of the way. But some of the organized labor here, like everywhere else in the country, has spent decades giving up wages and other things to get decent health care benefits. What do we say to them?
Well, I'm a big proponent of single payer, of Medicare for all, and it's, I think that it's a funny thing with unions that they are conflicted about the situation. In reality, when I talk to officers about this and why aren't we just support Medicare for all, let's just get it over with here, this is really silly, it's because they have their own health plans. Like I have a self-insured health plan in my local, and I'm a trustee, and we have investments, and we do all this stuff. And they just like playing with the money and having this stuff to, you have a lot more control too in bargaining and everything. So in some ways I understand why. But the fact is we're getting killed with the costs. We can't do it. And it's stupid. We should have Medicare for everyone. And, we can always bargain the extra benefits. I'd be really happy to bargain like the super good plan that goes on top of the basic Medicare plan. And we have, again, it's education. And when we tell people, I often, it wasn't hard to convince our members in my local to vote to support the single payer legislation that was going through. And when I told them that, do you know that 20% of what the company is contributing on your behalf is going to pay for the health coverage, for health care for Target workers and Walmart workers and waitresses at the local restaurants that have no health insurance. And so all these employers are being subsidized welfare for them through your health insurance money, not taxes. It's the people who get health insurance cover the people who don't. This isn't taxes. These are the people that we are helping Walmart pay less money and pay no benefits through your 20% of your premium every single month. Directly goes into it. In New York State, it's a fund. It's actually an actual bill we get at the health plan. And so simple things like that, information that we get people, I put that out, and then I say, okay, let's take your mom or your grandma, and when they go and they're on Medicare, would you get rid of Medicare? Oh no. I said, does your mom have good doctors? Your grandpa has good doctors, right? Yeah, they go to the same doctors I go to. Yeah? So, is there a problem with that? Would you have a problem? Are you like fearing going into under Medicare? No, you are pissed off that you can't get Medicare at 55 so you can retire early. That's what's wrong with Medicare, is that it doesn't happen until you're 65. So it's a big education process. I admire that you guys are going to try and do it in the state. So obviously, it's got to be something national, and it's going to be really hard because the costs with these pharmaceutical companies and all these different things are so out of control that it's going to be hard to do it by state. But I admire your efforts, and I will certainly do a lot as president of the Teamsters Union to help educate our members on that, so we can get on the right side of that fight.
That's great.
We have time for probably one more question or comment.
You mentioned making coalitions with other unions, and you mentioned specifically farm workers unions. I'm interested in more of what you had to say about what the president of Teamsters can do to make those coalitions, and how they can be successful, especially, for example, farm workers, which many of whom are undocumented and are harder to organize in a formal way. But there are some organizations like Coalition of Immokalee Workers or others more informal. I don't know if they're considered unions, but pressure groups that are. So how can Teamsters collaborate with this?
Well, we can share our resources and help. A lot of these organizations are on a shoestring, first of all, and I have an organization called Brand Workers that's housed in my union hall. I have a little tiny union hall. They have an office, and I let them use my conference room, and they're organizing low-wage immigrant warehouse workers in New York City. And and we have an agreement that if they ever get a big enough group that wants to be in a really, in a traditional union, that we'll take over and we work together. So to me, that's a win-win. We've got somebody who's out there talking to low-wage workers that it's very difficult to organize into a traditional union. They might be 10, 15 people. The companies kind of fly by night, but at least they're teaching them their rights. They're, helping them make sure they get paid their proper wages. So that's one very simple thing that we can do, but also it means that we have now, that's why Fresh Direct, the 1,000 worker warehouse that we're trying to organize, that's how we first got to know the workers there, was through that organization. And they passed them over to us, said, we can't handle this. This is something that a big union, and we didn't want to send them to just any union. We wanted to send them to yours because we knew that you would respect them and that you have Spanish organizers and you represent immigrant workers already in the union. The other thing is that we can help in terms of our, joining forces in pushing politicians and state governments and on regulations and safety. There's so many things that we can do with these organizations, and the goodwill that would be built up means that more people, when they think, oh, what should we do, maybe they'll decide to join a union and help organize a union instead of fearing them or thinking that they're out, that there's some foreign thing that they don't need, that just sucks their money and takes their dues money.
Okay, well, for the good of the schedule, Sandy, thank you so much.